My name is Lyra Keller, and I'm 29 years old. You were always our greatest disappointment. My mother said it calmly, almost casually, as she slid a pen across the table toward me right there in front of 12 relatives waiting for me to sign away my inheritance. That was 3 years ago. I walked out of my parents' house that afternoon with nothing, no money, no family, no safety net. My sister, Alara Keller, got everything: the $4 million estate, the lakefront villa in Silver Bay, the investment portfolios. My father didn't even look at me when I left. But what none of them knew, not my mother, not my father, not my perfect, polished sister, was what a single phone call between two lawyers would uncover 3 years later. And when my father finally heard the number, he repeated the same two words again and again, like a man watching his entire world collapse in slow motion. Before we go any further, take a moment to subscribe, but only if you believe in this. When the pain is deep enough, it can become the very thing that drives you to rebuild a life no one ever expected from you. I'd also love to know, where are you listening from? And what's the temperature like there right now? And just so you know, this is a fictional story, with elements supported by AI to intensify the conflict and bring out deeper emotional impact. Now, maybe make yourself a warm cup of tea, get comfortable, and let me tell you what happened. A Sunday afternoon in early March, the day my family decided to erase me. The call came a few days earlier, Wednesday night. I was sitting cross-legged on the floor of my tiny studio apartment in Brookline, surrounded by fabric swatches and hand-drawn layouts for a client's living room redesign. My first real solo project. $800. I was proud of it. Then my phone lit up. Mom, one message: family meeting this Sunday. Don't be late. No explanation, no warmth, just an order. I almost didn't go. There was something off in her tone, sharper than usual, more rehearsed. But it was still my family, and despite everything, I always showed up when they called. That had always been my weakness. Sunday morning, I drove nearly 3 hours from Brookline to Westbridge County. Rain had been falling for days, relentless. The windshield wipers moved back and forth like a metronome I couldn't escape. When I turned onto Hawthorne Ridge, the house appeared through the gray haze. Tall stone walls, dark shutters, cold, perfect symmetry. The kind of place designed to impress outsiders and intimidate anyone who lived inside it. I grew up there. It never felt like home. When I stepped inside, the air felt staged. 12 people were already seated around the dining table. My grandmother, Evelyn, sat closest to the window, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Uncle Marcus beside her, jaw tight. Aunt Lillian. My cousins, everyone dressed like this was some kind of formal event. At the head of the table sat Mr. Caldwell, my parents' estate attorney. Silver hair, thin glasses, a heavy leather folder opened in front of him. My father, Jonathan Keller, stood behind his chair, arms crossed. He didn't greet me. My mother, Diane, simply pointed to an empty seat at the far end, the only seat left. And there, at my father's right hand, sat Ilara, my older sister. Perfect posture, tailored blazer, diamond studs catching the light. She didn't look at me. She didn't need to. Everything about her already said she knew exactly what was about to happen. On the table in front of my seat was a single document, my name printed neatly at the top. I barely had time to read anything else before my father spoke. Sit down. Lyra, this won't take long. I sat. The chair felt cold beneath me. My father gave a small nod. Mr. Caldwell opened the folder and began reading in that flat, emotionless legal voice, the kind that turns lives into paperwork. The entirety of the Keller estate is to be transferred to Alara Simone Keller. The words kept coming. The Hawthorne Ridge residence, the Silver Bay Villa, all investment accounts. The trust fund established by my grandfather, total estimated value $4 million. Every dollar, every asset, every memory that was supposed to belong to both of us. Alara's name was on every line. Mine wasn't anywhere. I turned to my father. And me? He didn't answer. He adjusted his cufflink and stared somewhere just past my shoulder. The silence stretched. Then my mother spoke like she had been waiting for this exact moment. And when she did, everything inside me went quiet. You were always our greatest disappointment. My mother says it the way someone reads a grocery list. Calm, final. Like it's already been decided and there's nothing left to argue. We're not going to pretend anymore. The room stays completely still. My grandmother, Evelyn, lowers her eyes to her hands. Uncle Marcus shifts slightly in his chair, but he doesn't speak. Aunt Lillian studies the table like there is something fascinating in the wood grain. My cousins avoid looking at me, as if I've already disappeared. Alara sits perfectly composed. She doesn't say a word, but I see it. The faintest movement at the corner of her lips. Not quite a smile. Just enough to tell me she's satisfied. Mr. Caldwell clears his throat softly and slides the document closer to me. A formal relinquishment of inheritance rights. He says, "We'll need your signature to finalize the transfer. Tabs mark each place where I'm supposed to sign. Clean. Prepared. Thought through long before I ever walked into the room." I look at the pen, then at my mother. Her chin is slightly raised. She's waiting, almost daring me to react, to break, to prove her right. Instead, I pick up the pen. My hand is steady. That surprises me more than anything. I understand. I say quietly, and then I sign. The ink hasn't even dried before I push my chair back and stand. No one stops me. No one says wait. No one asks if I'm okay. If you think my parents were fair giving everything to one child and cutting the other off, then comment I support them. But if you feel the weight of what I went through, if you believe no one deserves to be erased like that, then comment that's favoritism. Sometimes the truth isn't loud, it's what you feel in your chest when something just isn't right. There's this strange shift in the room as I step away. Like everyone can finally breathe again. Not relief for me, relief that it's over for them. I walk down the hallway toward the front door. My heels echo against the hardwood, each step louder than it should be. On the wall to my left, the gallery I've passed 1,000 times. 3 framed photos. Alara in her graduation robe, smiling under a cascade of honors cords. Ilara receiving an award. My parents clapping beside her. Ilara standing between them on a balcony somewhere in Italy. Sunlight catching her hair, matching silver frames. Perfect spacing. There isn't a single photo of me. Not one. I reach the front door and open it. The rain is still falling, steady and cold. My phone buzzes just before I get to my car. A message from Alara. No hard feelings. Right. It's just business. I stare at the screen for a few seconds. Then I delete it. The drive back to Brookline takes almost 3 hours. I make it 20 minutes before I have to pull over. I stop on the side of the highway, turn off the engine, and just sit there. Cars rush past in blurred streaks. Rain pounds against the roof. I don't cry. I don't scream. I just sit with it. The feeling of being erased from your own family like a number crossed off a page. 40 minutes pass before I start the car again. When I get back to my apartment, everything is exactly the same. Fabric samples scattered across the floor. The client's floor plan still taped to the wall. A half-eaten bowl of cereal sitting on the counter from that morning. I check my bank account. $3,200. No family, no connections, no one coming to help. That night, I sit on the kitchen floor and make a list. Not of what I lost, of what I still have. It's a short list, but it belongs to me. The first cancellation comes the following Tuesday. A simple email. Hi, Lyra. We've decided to go in a different direction. Wishing you the best. No explanation. I reply politely and move on. That's part of the job. The second cancellation happens 4 days later. This one hits harder. It was a full kitchen renovation. Weeks of planning. Measurements already done. The homeowner calls instead of emailing. We've heard you're dealing with some personal issues, she says carefully. We just think it's better to work with someone more stable right now. I pause. Who told you that there's a hesitation on the other end? I'd rather not say. The line goes quiet, and something cold settles deep in my stomach. 2 cancellations in 1 week, both using language that felt rehearsed, careful, detached. Both walking away for reasons that had nothing to do with my work. I stopped expecting fairness after that. I took whatever I could get. A small living room refresh for a rental unit, $800. A color consultation for a couple in West Haven, $200. I started eating cereal for dinner 3 nights a week. Not because I was trying to be poetic about struggle, because cereal was cheap. Rock bottom isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It's quiet. It's stretching 1 box of pasta across 3 meals and calling it discipline. It's checking your bank account before buying milk. By the 3rd week, I reached for the only connection I had left. Uncle Marcus, my father's younger brother. He had always been softer than the rest of them, warmer. The only one who ever said anything kind about my work. He once told me my sense of color reminded him of my grandmother Evelyn. I held on to that longer than I should have. I called him that afternoon. Lyra, he said, his voice already careful. I need help. I told him. Not money. Just a reference. A connection. Anything. There was a pause. Long enough for me to understand what was coming. I love you, he said quietly. You know that. Another pause. But I can't get involved in this. The line went dead. And in that moment, something became very clear. There was no middle. There was the Keller family. And then there was me. 2 separate worlds. No bridge between them. That evening, an email appeared in my inbox from an address I didn't recognize. A request for a design consultation. A penthouse in Hartford Heights. Budget listed as flexible, which usually meant large. I stared at it for a long time. It felt wrong. Too perfect. Too convenient. Like something that didn't belong to my life anymore. I almost deleted it, but I didn't. 6 weeks after the meeting, I was sitting in a small coffee shop on Chapel Street. Saturday morning. Quiet. The kind of place where people pretended to work while watching each other. I had my last remaining project spread out in front of me. A modest bathroom remodel. My only source of income at that point. I was sketching tile layouts when a voice broke through my focus. Lyra, I thought that was you. I looked up. Sienna Clark, a former client. I had redesigned her home office the year before. She didn't wait for an invitation. She just sat down across from me. Her expression was complicated, part curiosity, part guilt. I need to ask you something, she said. I nodded slowly. Are you still doing design work? The question caught me off guard. Of course I am, I said. Why wouldn't I be? She wrapped her hands around her coffee, stirring it even though there was nothing left to mix. Because your sister said you weren't. The words hit harder than I expected. Alara talked to you. Not directly. Sienna said. She mentioned it at a dinner party a few weeks ago. I felt something tighten in my chest. What exactly did she say? Sienna hesitated, choosing her words carefully. She said you stepped away from the business, that you were going through something personal. She glanced at me, then looked down again. She also said your family had cut ties with you, that it was serious, like legal issues or something she couldn't discuss. The air around me shifted. I set my pencil down slowly. Did she explain what that meant? Sienna shook her head. No. And that's what made it worse. She exhaled quietly. When people don't get details, they fill in the worst ones themselves. I leaned back in my chair, my hands resting flat on the table. They weren't shaking from sadness. Not this time. This felt different, colder, sharper. Now it made sense. The cancellations, the hesitation in people's voices, the sudden distance. Alara hadn't just taken everything from me. She had gone further. She was making sure there was nothing left for me to rebuild. Quietly, strategically. No accusations, no direct lies. Just carefully planted suggestions in the right rooms with the right people. No fingerprints, just damage. I felt the urge rise in my chest, to call her, to demand answers, to tear through whatever illusion she thought she was controlling. But I didn't. I looked at Sienna and gave her a small, steady smile. Thank you for telling me. I finished my coffee in silence, and sitting there, in that booth, with my nearly empty bank account and a reputation I didn't even know had been destroyed, I made a decision. I don't confront Alara. I don't call my parents. I don't beg for anything back. I make a decision instead. I'm going to rebuild somewhere she can't reach me. 3 months pass before I break my own rule. I call my mother, not to ask for help, not to cry. I just need one answer. She picks up on the third ring. Lyra, not a greeting, just recognition. Did you plan it, I ask? Silence. The meeting, the lawyer. Everyone sitting there like it was a performance. Was it planned? A pause? We did what was best for the family. For the family. Or for Alara. Your sister never gave us a reason to worry. Neither did I. But I don't say that out loud. The silence stretches longer this time. I can hear her breathing. I can hear the faint drip of the kitchen faucet in the background. The same one my father always said he'd fix and never did. It's strange what your mind notices when everything important is falling apart. Lyra, she says finally, her tone softening. Not warmth, just that careful, measured softness people use when they think they're being reasonable. If you had listened to us from the beginning, gone to law school, chosen something stable, none of this would have happened. There it is. The truth underneath everything, in my mother's world. Obedience is love, and I didn't obey. So I stopped qualifying. This is the last time I call you. I say, don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being clear. I hang up. And this time, I keep my word. No calls, no messages, no checking in. Not that month. Not the next. The silence between us grows into something solid. A wall. And every day I don't reach for my phone. It gets a little higher. I expect to feel anger, but it fades. That's the part no one talks about. Eventually, the anger burns out, and what's left is quiet, a steady, empty quiet that feels a lot like freedom. 4 months later, Alara sends her first email. Subject line, thinking of you. It's long, carefully written, full of concern. She says she had nothing to do with the decision, that our parents acted on their own, that she tried to stop them, that she worries about me. I read it twice. Not because I believe it, because I don't. Every sentence feels constructed, controlled, like a statement prepared in advance. No responsibility, no specifics. It isn't an apology, it's protection. Something she can point to later and say, see, I cared. I don't reply. 2 weeks later, another email. Shorter, more direct. I heard you're struggling financially. If you need help, I'm here. You don't have to do this alone. Just ask. Just ask. 2 simple words, but coming from her, they feel heavier than anything else. I read it once, then closed my laptop, but something makes me stop. A quiet instinct, the kind that doesn't explain itself, but doesn't go away either. I open my laptop again, create a new folder. I name it one letter, V. I move both emails into it. I don't know why. I don't know if I'll ever use them, but something tells me I should keep a record. Alara doesn't do anything without a reason. If she's writing like this, she's building a story, and maybe I should be too. Her kindness has always come with conditions. I just never looked closely enough to see them. The penthouse email I almost deleted turns out to be real. It belongs to a woman named Eleanor Voss, 62, self-made, owns multiple commercial properties across 2 states. Sharp eyes, silver rings, the kind of handshake that tells you she's spent a lifetime proving people wrong. And somehow, she just opened a door I didn't even know I was allowed to walk through. We meet at the penthouse on the 18th floor, overlooking the city skyline. The space is a mess. The previous tenant had stripped the kitchen down to nothing and walked away. Bare drywall, exposed pipes, half-finished demolition. Most designers would see a problem. I see potential. I don't pitch anything. I don't try to impress her. I just move through the space. I run my fingers along the walls, track the light with my hand, crouch to study angles and sight lines. I let the space speak before I say a word. Eleanor watches me the entire time. 40 minutes pass before I finally stop. When I turn, she's standing in the doorway, arms crossed, a faint smile on her face. You see space differently, she says. That's rare. The project lasts 5 months. Budget $120,000. More than I've ever handled in my life. I barely sleep. I hunt for materials in salvage yards, work with small artisans, chase details most people would overlook. Every decision matters. Every corner carries intention. When it's finally done, Eleanor walks through the finished penthouse in silence. No reaction, no comment. Not for a long time. Then she turns to me. I have 3 colleagues who need someone like you. That sentence changes everything. Within 2 months, I'm working on 4 active projects. Real ones. Full redesigns. Real budgets. Clients who come to me because of her name. Not small jobs to survive. Work that builds something. One evening, over dinner, Eleanor mentioned something casually, almost like an afterthought. I'm exploring boutique hospitality, she says. If you ever want to invest your time, not money, we should talk. I nod, not realizing yet how important that moment will become. She studies me for a second, then adds quietly, I don't invest in people who need saving. I invest in people who just need a door. 8 months after that day at the dining table, I leave everything behind. Eleanor's new project is in Asheville, North Carolina, a place built into the mountains, full of artists, builders, people who chose their own path instead of inheriting one. It feels right, like I'm not running anymore. I'm starting. I pack my car, a 12-year-old Honda Civic with a dent in the passenger door. Everything I own fits in the back. Fabric samples, a box of books, 3 plants I refuse to leave behind. In Asheville, I rent a small 1-bedroom apartment above a pottery studio. The floors creak. The water pressure barely works. It's perfect. I file for an LLC. I choose the name carefully. Lumen Interiors. No Keller attached to it. If I'm building something new, it needs its own identity. Eleanor invests $150,000 into the company. Not as a favor. As a business, contracts, terms, clear expectations. I handle design. She opens doors, introduces me to property owners, developers, people who need spaces transformed. We split profits. Everything documented. I work 14 hours a day. Some nights I fall asleep at my desk. Pencil still in my hand. I don't check social media. I don't look back. Connecticut starts to feel distant, like something that happened to someone else. Then one Tuesday morning, my phone buzzes. A name I haven't seen in years. Ethan Cross, a college friend, now a real estate attorney in Charlotte. His message is simple. Is this you, Lyra Keller, running a design firm in North Carolina coffee sometime? I smile before I even realize it. Name a place. I type back. Ethan Cross looks exactly the same. Tall, slightly unpolished. The kind of man who wears a suit like it's optional. We meet at a coffee shop in downtown Charlotte. He orders black coffee. So do I. Some things don't change. We catch up like no time has passed. 5 years in real estate law. Solid clients. Stable career. Then he asks about Lumen Interiors. I give him the basics. Boutique hospitality, commercial renovations, Eleanor's investment. He listens closely. Lawyers always do. Then I tell him the part I don't usually share. The meeting, the signatures, 12 relatives watching. My mother's words. Ethan sets his cup down. Something in his expression sharpens. Wait. He says, "Your sister, Alara Keller." Yes. Westbridge County works at a firm in Graybridge. That's her. Why? He leans back slightly, thinking. Her name came up in a deal I reviewed last week. My chest tightens. What kind of deal? Commercial? Southeast region? She was copied on an email chain between a broker and a property group. I shake my head. That doesn't make sense. She doesn't work in that sector. That's what I thought too. He leans forward now. Lyra, in those emails. She was warning them about you. Everything inside me goes still. What do you mean? She said you were unreliable, that your family cut ties with you over serious financial issues. He pauses. She used your full name. The coffee in front of me turns bitter. She told them not to work with anyone connected to you. I don't say anything. The noise around us fills the silence. Cups clinking. Low conversations. Music playing somewhere behind us. Ethan watches me carefully. Don't react yet, he says quietly. Let me look into it first. Then he adds, if this is what it looks like, your sister didn't just benefit from what happened. She made sure you couldn't recover. I nod slowly. My hands are steady on the table, but underneath that stillness, something is shifting. Something sharper than anger. Let me pause here for a second, because this is the moment everything changes. If you were me, if you found out your own sister was quietly destroying your reputation behind your back, what would you do? Would you confront her? Or would you stay silent and keep building? Comment A for confront, B for silence. And if this story feels real to you, that subscribe button is right there. Now, let me tell you what happened next, because I didn't expect it either. 18 months after I left Connecticut, Lumen Interiors completes its 12th project. I keep track of everything in a leather notebook Eleanor gave me. 12 full renovations. Annual revenue $1.2 million. Even writing it down feels unreal. Then Eleanor and I make our first major move. We acquire a neglected commercial building in South Asheville. 3 stories. Brick exterior. Abandoned for 2 years. Most people see a loss. We see something else entirely. Everyone tells us it's a mistake. A money pit. Too much damage. Too much risk. We don't see it that way. I redesign the entire interior. Eleanor handles permits, zoning, negotiations. We invest 6 months and everything we have into it. When it's finished, the building transforms. 4 high-end retail spaces, 2 design studios, fully leased. Net profit after renovation, $340,000. For the first time, my name starts appearing in places I never imagined. A feature in Asheville Home and Design. A mention in a Charlotte real estate newsletter. Small things. But when you've been told your whole life that you'd never become anything, even small recognition feels enormous. I hire 3 people. A project manager, an assistant designer, a bookkeeper who makes sure I don't get ahead of myself. We work out of a converted warehouse that smells like sawdust and fresh paint. I still drive my old Honda, still live in the same 1-bedroom apartment, still eat lunch at my desk most days. The numbers grow, but I keep my life simple on purpose. Then one evening, sitting in Eleanor's kitchen over takeout, she says something that stops me mid-bite. There's a parcel of land in Westbridge County, she says casually. Just listed. I look up. It's near some residential estates. High-value area. She watches me carefully. I understand immediately. Westbridge borders my parents' neighborhood. I don't react. Send me the listing, I say. 3 years after the day I signed everything away, I walk into the Connecticut Real Estate Association's annual charity gala, held at the Grand Hartford Hotel. I almost didn't go when Eleanor first mentioned it. 200 guests, black tie, every major name in Connecticut real estate. My instinct was to decline. I wasn't ready. Not to stand in a room where people might know my family, might believe her version of my story. But Eleanor didn't give me the option to hide. You're my partner, she told me. You belong there. So I went. A black dress. Simple. No jewelry. Nothing to prove. And for the first time, that wasn't an act. The ballroom glows under golden light. Champagne trays pass between conversations. A string quartet plays softly in the corner. 200 people, dark suits, designer gowns, carefully curated success. I see them before they see me. My father stands near the bar, speaking with Mr. Caldwell, the same man who handed me that document 3 years ago. My mother sits at a nearby table, posture perfect, pearls catching the light, Aunt Lillian beside her, and Alara, right where she always is, at the center of it all. She's across the room, mid-conversation with a group of men in tailored suits, laughing like she owns the space, like she always has. My chest tightens. 3 years of silence. And my body still reacts to them like something it needs to survive. Eleanor's hand rests lightly on my arm. Breathe. I do. Across the room. My mother turns her head. Our eyes meet. Her champagne glass pauses halfway to her lips. Alara notices immediately. She follows my mother's gaze. Finds me. For a single second. Everything stops. No one moves. Then Eleanor steps forward, and I walk with her. She approaches the table like she belongs there, like she always has. She extends her hand to Mr. Caldwell. Gerald, good to see you. They greet each other easily. Of course they do. Then she turns, one hand gesturing toward me. Have you met my business partner, Lyra Keller, the creative force behind Lumen Interiors? She says it clearly, naturally, not loud, but loud enough. People nearby hear it. My father turns slowly. Recognition hits first, then confusion, then something deeper I can't quite name. He looks at me like I don't belong in the same reality as him anymore. My mother recovers first. She always does. Lyra, she says, smiling instantly, perfectly. What a surprise. We've been so worried about you. She reaches for my hand. I let her take it. 1 second. Then I gently pull away. I've been doing well. I say, that's all. Ilara steps closer to the table. Her eyes are fixed on me, calculating, measuring. We heard you were doing some decorating work, she says, tilting her head slightly. A small smile. That's nice. The word lands exactly the way she intends it to. Small, dismissive. But Eleanor hears it, and she turns, completely calm. Decorating, she repeats softly. Lumen Interiors currently manages a multi-million-dollar commercial portfolio. She pauses just long enough. I wouldn't call that decorating. The air shifts. Conversation around us fades. Someone sets their glass down too hard. Another voice cuts off mid-sentence. Ilara's smile doesn't disappear. It freezes. One of the men beside Mr. Caldwell leans forward. Lumen Interiors, he says. She owns that. Another voice joins in. We just signed them for a project in Graybridge. Silence. Alara's face loses color. I don't move. I didn't come here to prove anything. I came because I was invited. And right now, that's enough. A week later, the phone call happens. I'm not there when it does. Ethan tells me about it afterward, sitting across from me in his office in Charlotte. Notes spread out in front of him. There's something you need to know, he says. I nod. The land you're buying in Westbridge. He continues. It borders your family's estate. I already knew that. Standard procedure. He says. We needed to verify boundaries and title records. He taps his pen lightly against the paper. So I contacted the attorney listed for the neighboring property. I already know what he's going to say. Mr. Caldwell. I say. Ethan nods. I made the call. It was a routine call. Ethan says, standard procedure. He leans back slightly. Recalling it, I identified the purchasing entity, Lumen Interiors LLC, owner and principal, Lyra Keller. Then he pauses. There was silence. Not the normal kind. Not a polite pause. A long, empty silence. He says, I don't interrupt. Then Mr. Caldwell asked, Lyra Keller, the same Lyra Keller from the inheritance file. I nod slowly. That's me. Ethan continues. I confirmed it. Another silence. He says he could hear papers shifting on the other end, like Caldwell was flipping through something, trying to reconcile two completely different versions of the same person. Then he said he needed financial verification for compliance. Ethan taps the folder in front of him. I told him I'd send a summary. He looks up at me. I included everything. Business assets, property, revenue streams. He pauses. Estimated total valuation, approximately $9.4 million. The number hangs in the air. He didn't respond. Ethan says, not immediately. How long, I ask? 15 seconds. He gives a small, almost disbelieving smile. I counted. 15 seconds. For a lawyer, that's a lifetime. Then he said, very quietly, I'll need to contact my client. That was it. No questions. No commentary. Just the sound of someone recalculating everything they thought they understood. Ethan closes the folder and looks at me. He didn't speak for 15 seconds. Lyra? That doesn't happen. I nod, outwardly calm, hands resting in my lap. But somewhere deeper, something shifts. Not triumph, not revenge, just release. Like something I've been holding on to without realizing it finally lets go. Mr. Caldwell calls my father that same afternoon. I don't hear it directly. I piece it together later. Through Ethan, through documents, through the quiet way information travels when it matters. It happens in my father's study, behind a closed door, an ordinary afternoon. Caldwell explains it simply. A property transaction. Adjacent land. Buyer Lumen Interiors. Owned and operated by Lyra Keller. Estimated valuation $9.4 million. My father doesn't respond at first. Then finally, one sentence. That's impossible. Caldwell repeats the number, confirms the filings, points out that none of the capital comes from family sources. She built it independently. He says, another silence. Then my father repeats it, softer this time. That's impossible. My mother is in the room, listening from the armchair by the window. Her expression doesn't change, but her hand tightens around the napkin beside her. In the next room, Alara is on the phone. Her voice carries through the wall. Sharp, urgent. Have you heard of Lumen Interiors? The firm in North Carolina. My father sets the phone down slowly. He looks at the wall, at the framed photos of Alara, then at the empty space beside them, the space where I was never placed. I want to call her, he says. Caldwell's voice is steady. You'll need to go through her attorney. A pause. She has representation now. Something shifts in that moment. Something that doesn't repair itself. My father nods. And in that small movement, a truth settles in. His daughter has a lawyer. Because of him. That same week, the emails surface. Ethan is finishing due diligence on the Westbridge purchase. Routine work. Title searches. Transaction records. Compliance checks. The kind of work no one pays attention to. Until something doesn't belong. Buried inside a chain of correspondence between a brokerage firm and a property management group, he finds it. An email, sent 14 months earlier, from Alara Keller. Subject line confidential. The message is careful, precise. She raises concerns about a woman named Lyra Keller, mentions potential financial instability, suggests caution, doesn't accuse, doesn't state anything directly, but leaves just enough space for others to assume the worst. She describes me as financially irresponsible, says I was removed from the family over serious trust issues, advises the recipient to be cautious with anyone connected to my name. There are 3 more emails. Different people, same tone, same careful wording. Alara never lies directly. She doesn't need to. She suggests. She implies. She leaves space for people to imagine the worst. It's precise, controlled, and legally, it has a name. Interference with business relations. Ethan sends me the full chain. I read it once, sitting at my desk in Asheville, sunlight stretching across the floor. I don't react. I close the laptop, and I sit there for a long time. An hour passes before I open it again. I call him. Is this enough, I ask? It's more than enough. He says, how long have you had it? 2 days. I needed to be sure. I nod. Even though he can't see me. Keep everything. I say, I'll decide when I'm ready. I'm not going to use it out of anger. If I use it, it will be deliberate. It will matter. Let me pause here for a moment, because this is where everything shifts again. I have proof. I have the resources. I have every legal right to take this to court. So what would you do? Would you sue your own sister? Or walk away and let your success speak for itself? Comment A for sue. B for walk away. 2 days later, Ethan gets a call. Mr. Caldwell. Speaking on behalf of my father. Formal. Careful. My client would like to arrange a meeting with Ms. Keller. A private family discussion. Ethan asks me what I want to do. I don't answer right away. I take a full day. I sit with it the way I've learned to sit with every difficult decision. No rushing, no reacting, no letting the old version of me take control. Then I give him my answer. No. If my father has something to say, He can write it. The letter arrives 2 days later, not on legal paper. Handwritten. My father's, Lyra. I am incredibly proud of what you've built. I had no idea. I would like to see you. We have a lot to talk about. I read it at my kitchen table, then again by the window, then once more sitting on the floor. Exactly where I was the night everything collapsed. He's proud. Of course he is. Now there's a number attached to my name. $9.4 million of validation. But where was that pride when I was earning $800 per project? When I was eating cereal for dinner? When I was losing work because his other daughter was quietly destroying my reputation? I dictate my response to Ethan. He sends it. Thank you, Dad. But I don't need pride that arrives 3 years late. I built my life without it. I'll continue without it. A week later, another letter arrives. Short. 2 words. I'm sorry. The ink is slightly smudged. Like his hand wasn't steady. I read it once. Fold it. Place it in a drawer. I don't respond. And I don't sue Alara. Not because I forgive her. Not yet. But because a lawsuit would turn my life into evidence. And I've spent 3 years reclaiming it. I'm not giving it away again. Instead, Ethan drafts something else. A cease and desist letter. 5 pages. Clear, precise, unavoidable. The letter Ethan sends is meticulous. It doesn't rely on emotion. It doesn't need to. It lists 4 separate instances where Ilara used professional communication to damage my reputation. Each one is documented. Each one backed by evidence. The full email chain is attached, line by line, with timestamps and recipients. It cites the exact statute covering interference with business relationships. Not loosely, but precisely, as if preparing for a courtroom that may never be needed. And, at the very end, it delivers one clear message. If Alara Keller continues to spread false or misleading information about me or Lumen Interiors, legal action will be taken immediately. No further warnings. No room for interpretation. Ethan sends it by certified mail to her office in Graybridge. It arrives on a Thursday morning, 10:14 a.m. We know the exact time because of the confirmation receipt. 18 minutes later, she calls my mother, 10:32 a.m. I don't hear that call myself, but in certain circles, information doesn't stay contained for long, especially not when it involves a lawyer being formally warned inside her own firm. People talk, quietly, carefully, but they talk. She has everything. Someone later tells Ethan. Who tells me? Alara's voice. I'm told. Was controlled. Too controlled. Measured in that particular way people speak when they are trying to stay one step ahead of consequences. She has all the emails. She says, "What emails?" my mother asks. All of them. Alara replies, "Everything I sent. To brokers, to property managers, about Lyra." There's a pause after that. A long one. Long enough to feel the weight of what's been exposed. We'll handle it, my mother says. Same words. Same tone. The one she used 3 years ago when she told me I didn't matter. But something has changed. There's a faint crack in it now. A slight instability, like something she can't fully control anymore. That same evening, my phone lights up. Ilara. Her name on my screen for the first time in 3 years. I don't react immediately. I just look at it. Let it ring. Let it exist for a moment. Then I decline the call. Not out of fear, not out of hesitation, but because there's nothing left to say that hasn't already been said through actions. The emails don't need me to expose them. They move on their own. I don't send them to anyone. I don't post anything online. I don't speak about them outside of Ethan and Eleanor. But the letter arrives at her firm during business hours, and law firms are structured environments. Everything is processed. Everything is recorded. A legal secretary logs the delivery. A managing partner reviews the cover sheet as part of standard protocol. It doesn't take long. Within a week, 2 senior associates inside her firm know what she did. Not in detail, but enough. Enough to understand the implication. Within 2 weeks, she's called into a meeting, behind a closed door. No raised voices, no public confrontation, just quiet, controlled consequences. She isn't fired. That would be too visible, too disruptive. Instead, she's reassigned, removed from client-facing transactions, moved into internal compliance review. No client meetings, no networking events, no visibility. A windowless office and work that doesn't build a reputation, only maintains procedures. In that world, that kind of move says everything. Careers don't always collapse in dramatic ways. Sometimes they fade, gradually, silently, one decision at a time. And everyone notices, even if no one says it out loud. The story begins to move through the legal community, not as gossip, as observation, carefully phrased, complicated family situation, questionable judgment, someone to be cautious with. Reputation shifts, not overnight, but permanently. And I hear about it through Ethan, who hears it from colleagues, who hear it from others. A quiet chain of awareness. I don't celebrate. There's nothing satisfying about watching someone slowly dismantle themselves using choices they made willingly. I don't feel victory, just distance and clarity. She isn't fired. That would have been loud, visible. Instead, she's reassigned, quietly moved away from everything that once defined her career. No more client-facing deals, no more negotiations, no more high-value transactions, just internal compliance work, a windowless office, and tasks that don't build a name, only maintain systems. No client lunches, no networking, no presence in her world. That kind of shift says more than any public statement ever could. The story spreads the way it always does in professional circles. Not through headlines, through tone, through pauses in conversation, through raised eyebrows and carefully chosen words. Complicated family situation, questionable judgment. Not someone you want representing your interests. No one says everything, but everyone understands enough. Reputations don't collapse all at once. They erode, slowly, permanently, one conversation at a time. I hear about it through Ethan, who hears it from colleagues, who hear it from others. A chain of quiet confirmations. I don't celebrate. There's nothing satisfying about watching someone dismantle their own career with decisions they chose to make. It doesn't feel like justice. It just feels inevitable. One afternoon, my phone rings. A number I haven't seen in 3 years. I answer. Lyra, Uncle Marcus says. His voice is heavier than I remember. I owe you an apology. I close my eyes for a moment. For what? For that day. He says, the meeting. I should have said something. I should have stood up for you. There's no hesitation in his voice, no excuses, just truth. Thank you, I say quietly. That means more than you know. He asks if he can visit sometime. I tell him Asheville is beautiful in the spring. When we hang up, I sit there for a long time. The truth came out on its own. I didn't have to force it. I didn't have to expose anything. Over the next few weeks, he starts calling more often. Every other Sunday, he keeps things simple. Talks about the weather, his dog, small stories that don't carry weight, but sometimes, without meaning to, he lets things slip. My father has stopped going to his weekly golf games. He spends most of his time in his study now, sitting, thinking. The bookshelves around him filled with law journals he doesn't open anymore. Marcus tells me about something he saw once. A printed magazine article on the desk. Lumen Interiors. My name. My face. Folded at the corners from being handled too many times. Read over and over. My mother hasn't changed in public. She holds her version of the story tightly. At brunch, at book club, at the farmer's market on Saturday mornings. She repeats it the same way every time, that I was always difficult, that money changes people, that success rewrites the past, but late at night, it's different. Marcus says he's heard her, through the bathroom door, crying. Not the kind meant to be heard. The kind that comes from somewhere deeper, somewhere she doesn't allow to exist during the day. Weeks later, another letter arrives. Handwritten, longer than the others. I'm not asking you to come back. My father writes. I know I don't have that right anymore. I just want you to know I was wrong. I see it now. I see you now. I know it's too late. I read it sitting on my porch in Asheville, the mountains glowing gold as the sun drops lower, the air carrying the scent of wood smoke and rain. And for the first time in 3 years, I cry, not because I'm hurt, but because something I once needed so badly has finally arrived. Too late to change anything, but still real, still heavy, still human. I let it happen. I don't stop it. I don't rush it. Then I fold the letter carefully, place it in the drawer with the others, and I don't reply. That night, I have dinner with Eleanor at her farmhouse just outside the city. She says something casually, like it's nothing, but I know it isn't. She made roast chicken that night. Simple, perfect. The kind of meal that doesn't try too hard but still feels intentional. A bottle of wine sits open between us. One she says she's been saving for no particular reason. The fire burns low in the corner, casting soft light across the room. Her cat is curled up in the armchair, completely undisturbed by anything outside its small, comfortable world. It's quiet, not empty, just calm. I knew your father, Eleanor says. I pause mid-bite, my fork hovering for a second before I slowly set it down. She notices. Of course. Not like that. She adds gently, not recently. I don't say anything. 30 years ago. She continues. When I was building my first company, Jonathan Keller was a young attorney in Westbridge County. There's no emotion in her voice, just memory. Sharp, focused, ambitious. I nod slightly. That sounds like him. He was one of my earliest legal advisors. She says, back when I didn't know enough to question the people I hired. I stay quiet, letting her speak. He was good at what he did. She admits. Very good. But he had a way of seeing the world that was narrow. She lifts her glass, turning it slowly between her fingers. To him, everything had to be measurable. Revenue, growth, return on investment. She looks at me then. If it couldn't be quantified, it didn't exist. I feel that sentence settle somewhere deep. Because I've lived inside it, he told me once. She continues. That I lacked vision. I don't react outwardly, but I feel it. He said boutique real estate would never scale, that it wasn't serious, that I should reconsider before I wasted too much time on something that couldn't grow. She takes a small sip of wine. I ended our professional relationship that same week. The fire crackles softly. A year later, she says, my company outperformed every projection he ever made. She doesn't say it with pride, just clarity. Then she looks at me in that steady way I've come to trust. When you first contacted me about the penthouse, I didn't know who you were. I remember that. I hired you because your work spoke for itself. She continues. Because you saw something in that space that other people didn't. She pauses. I found out later that you were his daughter. I don't speak. And after you told me what happened, she says, I made a decision. Her voice doesn't change. I wasn't going to let history repeat itself. The room feels quieter somehow. She turns her glass slowly again, watching the light catch the surface. Not because I dislike your father, she adds. I don't. A small pause. But because I know exactly what it feels like to be dismissed by someone who can only measure value one way. I sit with that. For a long time. Because suddenly, everything makes more sense. She didn't save me. She didn't step in out of pity. She recognized something. Something she had seen before. In herself. 30 years ago. Sitting across from someone who told her she wasn't enough. Thank you. I say quietly. She shakes her head. Don't thank me. She replies. Just keep building. 6 months after the gala. The Westbridge property closes. I stand on the land for the first time, looking out over space that once would have meant something very different to me. I don't build a house. I don't build anything for myself. Instead, I build something I wish had existed when I needed it most. A shared creative space, studios, workrooms, meeting areas, a place for designers, artists, architects, people at the beginning, people with ideas but no doors open yet. I remember what it felt like to sit on my kitchen floor with $3,000 and no direction. I remember what it felt like to have no one believe in what I could become. So I build something that changes that for someone else. I name it the Lumen Collective. Eleanor stands beside me on opening day. Simple ceremony. No spectacle. She cuts the ribbon. And as the doors open, I watch people walk in, not knowing yet what they'll build. Only that they finally have a place to start. That same week, an email arrives. From Alara. I recognize the subject line before I even open it. No strategy this time, no careful phrasing, no distance. Just honesty. I know I messed up. I know what I did was wrong. Can we talk? I stare at the screen longer than I expect to. 3 years of silence. 3 years of damage. And now, this. For the first time. I don't close it. I don't ignore it. I reply. It takes me an hour to write 4 sentences. Not because I don't know what to say, because I want to make sure I mean every word. Ilara, I forgive you. I truly do. But forgiveness doesn't mean I want you back in my life. I wish you well. I read it twice. Then I press send. And something shifts. Something I didn't even realize I was still carrying loosens inside my chest. Not relief, not closure, just space. 2 days later, my phone rings again. My mother, Diane. I almost don't answer. My thumb hovers over the screen, ready to let it go to voicemail. But something stops me. Not for her. For me. I answer. You proved your point. She says immediately. No greeting. No hesitation. Now come home. I walk to the window as she speaks. The mountains stretch out in front of me, soft blue against the horizon. Below, the pottery studio plays something quiet on the radio. Life continues. Steady, uncomplicated. I didn't prove a point. I say, my voice is calm. I built a life. There's a pause on the other end. And this is my home now. Silence. Then she speaks again. Softer this time. Lyra, I love you. I close my eyes for a second. I know. I say, and I do. In her way. But love was never the problem. I just can't go back. I continue. Not to being someone you only value when the numbers make sense. She doesn't answer. I hear her breathing. Slow, uneven. And for a moment, I wonder what's on the other side of that silence. If she's crying, if she's angry, or if she's just sitting there, in a house that suddenly feels too large, with too many empty spaces where something important used to be. I don't wait for her to respond. I end the call gently, because I've already said everything that needed to be said. Home isn't the place you were raised. It isn't the house your parents built. It's the place you choose. The life you create when no one else is choosing you. That's my story. And I'm not telling it so you'll hate my family. They're not villains. They're people. Flawed. Stubborn. Limited by their own beliefs. My father grew up thinking success only looked one way. And when it showed up differently, he couldn't recognize it. My mother believed love meant control. And when she lost control, she didn't know how to express love anymore. My sister built her identity on being better than me, and when that foundation cracked, she didn't know who she was without it. They were wrong, all of them, but they weren't strangers. They were my family, and that's what made it hurt the way it did. This isn't advice. It's just something I've learned to carry. You don't need permission from the people who gave up on you to start over. You just need one door. Sometimes you build that door yourself. Sometimes someone like Eleanor opens it for you. Either way, it becomes yours. Setting boundaries with family isn't cruelty. It isn't abandonment. It's choosing to stop giving parts of yourself to people who won't protect them. Today, Lumen Interiors has 14 employees. Our portfolio is valued at over $10 million. Eleanor is still my partner. Ethan is still my lawyer. And every morning, I wake up in a home I bought with my own money, in a place I chose, living a life I built from nothing but a kitchen floor and a short list of what I still had. My father still writes letters. I still read them. I just don't reply. Maybe one day I will. Maybe I won't. For the first time in my life, that choice belongs to me. And if you're listening right now, sitting in the aftermath of being told you're not enough by the very people who were supposed to believe in you, hear this. The best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's building a life so full that their opinion no longer has a place in it. And that's where I leave you. If you would make the same choice I did, choosing to walk away, build your own life, and set boundaries instead of going back, then right, I do the same as you. So I know I wasn't alone in that decision. If you feel you would go the other way, choose to reconnect, to rebuild those ties no matter what, then just right, come back at all costs. And if you're still thinking, still caught between heart and logic, right maybe, there's no perfect answer here, just different paths, each with its own weight. What matters is what you can live with when everything is quiet. So tell me honestly, what would you choose? And why? My name is Lyra Keller, and this is the truth I learned the hard way. There was a time when I believed love meant staying, no matter how much it hurt. I thought if I tried harder, worked harder, proved myself enough, the people who were supposed to love me would finally see me. But life has a quiet way of teaching you that some people don't change not because you failed, but because they never learned how to see beyond their own limits. What this journey gave me wasn't just success, it gave me clarity. I learned that self-worth is not something you earn from others, it's something you decide for yourself. Walking away didn't mean I stopped loving my family. It meant I finally started choosing myself. And sometimes, that is the bravest thing you can do. Pain can either break you or rebuild you, and when it's deep enough, it becomes fuel. It pushes you to create a life so strong, so meaningful, that no one can take it away from you again. Not revenge, not validation, just peace. If you're listening right now and you've ever felt overlooked, dismissed, or not enough, I want you to remember this. You don't need permission to begin again. You don't need approval to become who you're meant to be. All you need is one small step forward and the courage to keep going. If this story resonated with you, don't just watch and move on. Be part of this community. Share your thoughts, your choices, your voice. Someone out there might need your story more than you realize. And if you found even a small piece of yourself in this journey, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video so it can reach others who need it too. I'll see you in the next story.
Welcome to Family Confessions. Our stories go beyond entertainment, helping viewers recognize toxic behaviors, understand boundaries, and reflect on their relationships, while reinforcing self-worth and the strength to heal and move forward. Each video follows a structured workflow ensuring quality and value for our audience. Thank you for being here.